There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio.
In my first original director's cut of Shadowland, there was an opening scene that took place in a large old cathedral in the English countryside, and that scene was going to establish the bishop, and the bishop was going to be talking to a young priest, explaining to him about the vampire hunting effort and how it all worked. The priest would, in effect, become, the audience. So in explaining things to the priest, he would be explaining to the audience, giving them a little exposition about how this all worked. We had shot that interior scene and some of the establishing exterior scenes in and around the St. Louis area, and we had shot inside of a cathedral in the St. Louis area. But I wanted to show the exterior of the cathedral in the English countryside. My first instinct was to show, to use a stock shot, to use like a high definition stock footage shot. Well, we looked around for some of these, and the only ones that were appropriate were way too expensive, and also we were having a hard time finding the right frame rate. We finally decided that because of the expense, we would build a miniature cathedral, do it as a miniature establishing shot. Well, as work went on the film, we ended up cutting this sequence from the film. Well, the DVD rolled around, and we decided to include this original opening sequence on the deleted scenes for the DVD, except it wasn't finished. We didn't have the cathedral shot. I didn't want to just cut to the interior of the cathedral and then show the priest walking through the seminary outside. I wanted to actually show the aerial shot of the cathedral. So we went back to this miniature idea. I stumbled across something looking around on the internet. I found this whole world called papercraft. It's exactly what it sounds like. You can build objects, animals, vehicles out of paper or cardstock, and there's this whole huge community out there doing it, and it's amazing the things you can do. Well, this gave me the idea that maybe I could do the cathedral out of this cardstock material. Well, I started looking around and found this absolutely amazing cathedral model that was available in a kit form. It was a booklet, and you could order the booklet on the internet, and you had to cut out all the parts and put them together and build up this cathedral model. I think there were like 35 pages of parts to build this cathedral that ended up being about 2 feet long and a foot high and about 2 feet tall. So to build the cathedral took me probably 2 or 3 months of sitting around in the evenings watching television, watching movies, and just absentmindedly cutting out these parts and piecing this thing together. And then we had already established the seminary grounds, which we shot locally here in St. Louis at Eden Seminary. Well, in the establishing shot, I wanted you to see the seminary nearby, so we decided to adapt the same card stock, papercraft technology. So we went back to Eden Seminary and we shot high definition still photos, and then we took those into Photoshop and turned them into basically model sheets so that we were able to use the same construction technique as the cathedral and build the surrounding seminary. Then came the shooting of the cathedral model. Originally, I wanted to do this outside and use the real sun, because nothing's better than the sun, except that the weather in St. Louis at that time was really kind of dicey, very windy, and I didn't know if we could depend on good weather. So we decided to shoot in the executive producer's garage, which is where a number of the effects in the film got done. And we used a 1200 watt HMI to act as a sun source. And then we basically dressed the surrounding terrain to camera. And a lot of that was done using, woodland scenics, using like the train layout decoration material that you find in hobby stores, things like lichen, green turf, just various grass materials and decorating woodland materials, scenic materials. Now, for a camera platform, for a way to shoot this, we had this base for an old style video camera that you would have used in a TV studio. A local studio was getting rid of these, so we went and picked them up and decided, we'd use them for something someday. And they, being very heavy and very stable, they were a good platform to shoot special effects from. Very, very stable, very smooth moving. Now, we shot this at high speed. We shot it at 60 frames a second and then reduced it to 24 frames to smooth it out some, but that wasn't quite smooth enough. I was going for sort of a helicopter flyover look. So after I got a take that I liked, I took it into Final Cut, applied a smooth cam filter, and the smooth cam filter basically took out some of the bumps and bangs. And then we started laying on filters. We started adjusting the contrast and the brightness. Then we started adjusting the color, trying to get it more to a daylight color. And then of course we added some aerial haze and a little bit of flare and glare in the lens to make it look a little bit more like daylight. And I think the final shot works out really well. If you look at it enough times and you look at it carefully, you can see that it's a model. I think, but for the fact that we spent nothing on it, I don't think you can get any better than that. And I'm glad I got to see the sequence finished with the cathedral establishing shot. And even though it didn't end up in the final film, I'm glad that you see it in its entirety in the special features on the DVD. I'm really happy with how it turned out. There's, you know, with the classic phrase, good, fast, or cheap, pick two. I think this is the best example you can get of good and cheap. It wasn't fast, but it worked out well.